Welcome everyone to Buddhist Center. Tonight, once again, we're looking at Lama Tsongkhapa and we're looking at Kala, Rinpoche's dog that we got in the last year or two of Rinpoche's life, because he said that he wanted a puppy. So this is Kala, everybody who's watching all over the world. Khensur Geshe Wandak's the dog. So we're looking at Lama Tsongkhapa's foundation of all good qualities, source of all my good. As it's translated in the text that we use. Pabunka Rinpoche's commentary talks about, begging for this mountain of blessings that we're trying to receive that will enable us to actually practice these stanzas in a complete way. So each of these stanzas, we find this aspiration to please bless me, to be able to practice this in its entirety, in a complete way from this moment onwards. So it's almost like each stanza, there's this kind of aspiration and there's this supplication made to all the Gurus, Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas to be able to try, please help me to be able to, from this point on, live this way. And what does live this way mean? Live according to the stages of the path to enlightenment that will lead to complete Buddhahood. So I will become the most reliable guide in the universe for all sentient beings. And also, the great part is that I personally will achieve fearlessness, freedom from all the different types of suffering and bliss, because the kind of byproduct of putting others' needs before my own and coupling it with the wisdom that's realized, we find from the medium scope up, I can achieve that state of complete bliss, where then I have complete reliability to everyone in the universe, because that has become part of my aim. And by fulfilling that goal, I not only achieve my aims, but I achieve the aims of the world. I achieve the aims of all sentient beings. So it's an amazing thing that we're doing here tonight, looking at a text that encompasses, that contains all of the stages of the path to enlightenment that are necessary for any being to go from wherever he or she is at to the state of Buddhahood, where there is a removal of all of the afflictive obstructions, the obstructions to omniscience. And again, one is the most reliable guide in the universe, because he or she, or you, if we want to put it that way, will have perfect wisdom, perfect compassion, perfect love for all beings, and perfect skill in helping them, and perfect power to help them. And in this mind of omniscience, this perfect wisdom will know exactly what's the best thing to do for each and every one of them at any given time, forever, until each and every one of those sentient beings achieves the state of bliss that you have achieved when you became the most reliable guide. So we will all become the most reliable guide if we rely upon these stages. And how blessed are we that we've been given these teachings by Khensur Geshe Wandak, and we have beings like His Holiness the Dalai Lama in the world, and Umzala Geshe Aga, and beings like Geshe Dorje Damdu and Geshe Malay Tenzin Ladrin, who can help elucidate the meaning of these things so that we can then incorporate them more and more into our lives, begin to act more and more like bodhisattvas, eventually become bodhisattvas, and then while we were bodhisattvas, go through the 5 Mahayana paths of accumulation, preparation, seeing, meditation, and no more learning, so that we achieve that state of perfection. So that state of perfection isn't like selling a hope like maybe I can win the lottery. This idea of perfection is an achievable goal if we put all of the work in necessary to achieve the exact goal. If we don't put the work in, the goal is not achievable. There's no magic. There's no one who can just, bestow some realization upon us, or give us some kind of spell on our minds that makes it change enough to evolve into this being we're talking about. We will have to put in the work, but the work we're going to have to put in, we'll need to know what that work exactly is. The work, I mean, to a T, with certainty, because if we do the work 90%, 90% isn't Buddhahood. We haven't achieved Buddhahood, because Buddha is 100%. So we only will achieve the goal of Buddhahood if we put in 100% effort into each of these topics, into each of these stanzas, into each of these realizations and points that are all necessary for us to realize. So before we get into any more of the text or any more talk about the Lam Rim and how it can affect our lives, how it can affect our minds, and transform us into kind of a sullied state of existence into purity, let's get our minds calmed down a bit. We come to the teaching, we've had a day, or in other places, maybe it's morning now. We've had a nice night's sleep if you're watching, so who knows? But we come here with all kinds of ideas in our head that don't have anything to do with the purpose of tonight's event. The purpose of tonight's event is to focus the best that we possibly can on the information that Lama Tsongkhapa is providing us, based on the information that the Nalanda Pandits provided, based on the information that Buddha Shakyamuni provided. So the whole thing we're trying to do tonight is to focus solely on this information so we don't miss anything that we're going to need to know, so that when we leave the teaching tonight, we'll know exactly how we can apply these teachings and these stages of the path to our lives. So if our mind is scattered and all over the place or sleepy and dull, we're not going to be able to really receive the information that we need to receive in a clean way in order to progress on the path. We just are going to mix it up or miss something or just miss all of it. And if any of those things occur, when we get to that point where we start to analyze, because we need the wisdom arisen from hearing, analysis, and meditation, we won't have the right thing to analyze. So when we get to that second step, if we don't have the wisdom risen from hearing done properly, then that second step isn't analyzing an object of observation that's correct. We can't decipher whether or not what we just heard is correct because we don't know exactly what we've heard. So we could start to spin our wheels in our meditation by not attending the teaching properly, by misunderstanding the thing at the teaching. That can then lead to us then sitting on our cushion and thinking that we've come to this kind of conclusion, or that the teacher has provided us with some sort of conclusion. And when we start to analyze it, if we're not really skilled in analytical meditation and logic, we can very easily create kind of a new Buddhism, kind of a new thing that the teacher never said, kind of a new tenet system. There's 4 tenet systems. Maybe we can create a 5th tenet system that doesn't work at all on our own. And the way that this can happen is by not listening well. We don't listen well, and then we think we heard it a certain way. We hear it all the times in various teachings where, excuse me, Geshe-la or Geshe-ma-la. I remember you said before that this meant this, that, and the other thing. And then the Geshe says, I never said that. I never said anything like that, and I would never say anything like that. That's basic rudimentary things that I would never say anything like that. So this student, who knows how long he or she decided that they heard the right thing and analyzed it, came up with a question that they framed. So they've been obviously thinking about it. And this question that they framed was around an idea that the teacher never presented in the first place. It had a similitude, maybe had some kind of vague resemblance to a point the teacher made, but really wasn't the point the teacher made. So this student, for however long it was until they could meet with this teacher again, went down this road in analytical meditation that was completely wrong. Now, a beautiful thing happens when you go and do this, then the teacher corrects it, and then you don't forget that you have done this wrong. But what happens if you don't see the teacher again for a year or 2 years or 5 years? Imagine how off track you can get from attending a teaching and not listening carefully, or attending a teaching from somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about and then not checking it and cutting it, rubbing it, and making sure it's accurate. So a lot of things can go wrong at a teaching. You think we're doing this great thing that will never produce anything but wonderful results. Sure, imprints in your mind are being left that are so virtuous, that are so precious, that are so incredible. But if from your side, you're not attending this teaching with all of the qualities that the Lamrim Chemo talks about from the side of the student that are necessary, where you don't have the faults of the three pots, where you're not an upside down pot that's not listening, that can't be filled, and you're not a leaky pot that's forgetting everything, that's just leaking all the substance that you need out of it, and you're not a dirty pot that comes in here with all of these prejudices, preconceived notions, so everything you're hearing is contaminated with all of your ideas, and then you leave with a mixed kind of message. You know, these are the things that we as students need to make sure that we're, you know, paying attention to. And that's why we calm our minds down. We calm our minds down to be able to say, yes, I am ill. I have the afflictions. I have self-grasping ignorance that gives rise to this self-cherishing attitude that gives rise to every misery that could ever exist. And I keep doing this over and over and over again, and thinking that the self-cherishing attitude, thinking that self-centeredness will produce so much happiness in my life, but it never does. And now, even logically, I know this, yet I still indulge in this self-centered attitude. I still, even though I logically know that this idea makes sense to me, I still don't do this. I still hit a wall with this kind of idea. And the reason that I'm hitting a wall with this idea is because I haven't matured my mind enough. I haven't immersed myself in this information enough. I haven't realized enough that I really have this problem, that I'm ill. And anyone who recognized that they were doing a behavior over and over again that was producing horrifying results would say that's a mental illness, some sort of addiction, some sort of compulsion, some sort of bad thing. But what's happening is we have a self-grasping ignorance that's creating compulsion all of the time. So we have to recognize that we're ill and that we're so mistaken. And we have this self-grasping ignorance. We have to calm our minds down enough, come to this teaching with an open mind enough and say, hey, I have mistaken ideas that are creating all kinds of problem in my life, and I can't stop them. For whatever reason it is, no matter how much you tell me the truth, I cannot stop these mistaken ideas that are leading me to all of these problems. So this is a mental illness. I'm here because I have this problem, and that the teacher, the Buddha, the teacher is hopefully teaching the authentic words of the Buddha. So the Buddha is the doctor that can say, okay, you have this illness of self-grasping ignorance, and okay, and you seem to have a lot of anger problems. And here, you know, and you have all of this attachment and pride, and here are some solutions. So the Buddha says, okay, here's the solution for self-grasping ignorance. Here's some kind of coarse remedies for suppression of attachment and pride and anger and so forth. And this is the medicine that you need to take in order to get rid of your illness. Eventually, you're going to need to get rid of the self-grasping ignorance at its root. But here's some, you know, medications to suppress your anger in the meantime, and your attachment in the meantime, and to suppress your pride in the meantime, so that you can eventually eradicate what gives rise to all of it, that self-grasping ignorance. So the Buddha, the doctor, the teacher hands out medicine. This is the third idea that we have to have. The Buddha's, you know, we're sick. The Buddha or the teacher is a doctor, and the teachings are like medicine. And then the responsibility falls into our lap that we have to take the medicine. We have to engage in the practice of the teachings if we want to be cured. So the medicine right now is listening, actually taking the medicine is listening to this teaching properly, is listening to the teaching without the three faults of the pots, is really trying to focus in as best we can to try to make sure that we achieve that goal of taking the medicine that we know is the only medicine that will cure this specific illness. This specific illness has specific medicine, and this is the specific medicine here that you know is being offered. We better take it. How do we take it? We listen properly. And then the thought, oh, the Buddha's teachings are so amazing. I can't believe that I'm able to attend this. And this adds this joy to your mind that makes you want to listen more, makes you want to listen more clearly. How incredible. We have the solution to the origin of suffering. We have the solution to the lack of bliss in our lives. How incredible. And may these teachings, number 6, remain in this world. Be part of that as a practitioner. Get the Dharma, realize the Dharma in your own mind. And that's how the teachings remain in this world. Be able to, talk about these teachings with others if they want to hear them. Don't go door to door and talk about the teachings. But if people are interested in hearing about the teachings, give these teachings freely. Become learned enough so that you can, so that you're not giving out that first part, the misinformation that poor student goes and analyzes and over and over again and gets nowhere with it because you gave them the misinformation. Be the one who allows the Dharma to remain in this world. So right now, how does that happen? You'd have to get the Dharma into your mind to have it remain in this world. So you'd have to listen to it properly. In order to take the medicine right now, you have to, your job right now, your taking of the medicine right now is to listen as closely as you possibly can. So when we look at the Lamrim Chemo, category number 3, how to listen to and explain the teachings, how to listen to the teachings is a huge, huge part of our path, of our ability to achieve complete Buddhahood. For our ability to see emptiness depends upon our hearing and learning these teachings accurately, cleanly, from qualified people, so that we analyze something that's really true and we can transform our mind with an antidote. Not just make our mind more kind of fixed on something that just seems nicer. We have to unfix our mind off of everything. And this is going to take a lot of work. And this is going to take a lot of effort, but it's worth it. And if you put the effort in, you'll feel it's worth it. You'll have this joy inside of you when you engage in practice, when you talk about this practice that you just can't even describe. But if you don't put the effort in, or you put half effort in, or you put 3 months effort in and then don't put any more effort in, or think a year that's been enough, I should have seen a miracle. Nothing is going to happen, because since beginningless time, you have been misapprehending reality. You have been engaging in life like an idiot since beginningless time. That's a long time. Think about habits that you get in this life that you do over and over and over again. Simple little stupid habits. How hard they are to undo. Stop eating sugar tomorrow. Don't drink any more caffeine tomorrow. Whatever your thing is. No more cigarettes tomorrow. No more alcohol tomorrow. Whatever your thing is. Just think about that. So before I go on any further, let's get into a state of mind where we could do exactly what I'm talking about. A state of mind where we could hear this really well, so that when we leave here, because I assure you, this information has been passed down from Buddha Shakyamuni. I'm not presenting you with anything that has, kind of gray area, or maybe was, maybe wasn't. I heard it somewhere. I found it under a rock. No, this is Nalanda Pandits. This is, pure Buddha Shakyamuni, clear lineage from Khensur Geshe Wandak, Dalai Lama, Geshe Dorje Damdu, Humsala Geshe Aga, all the way back through the Indian Pandits to Buddha Shakyamuni, those Indian Pandits that we're going to mention in a minute and talk about tonight. So really recognize that. So we'll get into the 7-point Vairakana posture, which is a very conducive posture to getting our minds clear, according to the great masters, of getting our minds and our body kind of in a balanced place, because our mind rides on the subtle wind, and when our channels and our winds and everything is aligned and going in the proper way and our blood's flowing properly, it allows for our mind to just have a little loosening. It allows for our mental consciousness to be more of what's a focus, because our body is fixed and running so properly. So when our body is running so properly, our mind isn't interrupted by, oh, what's this, or what's that, or why isn't that happening? Or our body is just kind of on a self-autopilot mode when we get into this, perfect posture and get familiar with it. And it allows for our mind to then really, really get into things And that's what we have to do. We have to use our mental consciousness to evolve. Our sense consciousness and so forth is not what we're going to evolve. We're evolving. Yes, our sense consciousness will be purified. Yes, the Buddha's consciousness is all pure. But the evolution that has to take place, the self-grasping ignorance that has to be smashed out, is in the mental consciousness. And that's where it starts. And that's where we have to do our work. So we get our body into a place where it can go into autopilot and supports the process of clarity of our mind in the best way possible. And the great masters like Kamala Shila and Lama Tsongkhapa and Pabongka Rinpoche, so many masters, the Sangha talk about the 7-point Vairocana posture. So we'll get into that right now. I won't get into the details of what that posture is exactly. I've just talked about the benefits of it tonight. And I think that makes a little more sense out of everything that we do when I talk about the motivation and the reasons for doing things. So 7-point Vairocana posture, remember, keep your back as straight as possible. And let's begin to calm our minds down with an antidote to conceptuality that Lord Buddha taught, which is breathing in and out and counting the breath. So breathing in, filling the lungs and diaphragm, just gently all the way to the top, and gently turning it around and exhaling, doing it in very natural fashion, not doing it very quickly or doing it so slowly you feel like you're drowning, doing it in a very, very natural fashion, in and out and counting. And this helps to kind of drum down the conceptuality and get your mind more fixed. And we're going to add another object of observation to this mix. And that's going to be Buddha Shakyamuni in the front generation, arm length away, about eye height, size of your thumb, beautiful, radiant and glowing, but in a fixed posture, not animated and moving in any way. Buddha Shakyamuni, very fixed and beautiful. And then you're going to only be focusing on him, breathing in, breathing out, and the counting. So your focal object will be only those 4 things: breathing in, breathing out, counting, Buddha Shakyamuni. And if your mind starts to scatter or become excited or become sleepy and dull, the spine, your mind introspection is going to say, oh, it's doing what it's not supposed to be doing because you just told your mind you have a specific focal object. And then mindfulness, which is not forgetting the focal object, is going to bring it back to the center of your mind and then bring it back to that place of clarity and stability, where there's no excitement that's shaking the mind and there's no dullness that's making the mind not bright enough to really illuminate the object of observation. Okay? So let's engage in that practice for a moment or two and get our minds to a more realistic, wonderful place from which we can practice the Dharma, and we can hear these things so purely and set our motivations so purely so that we can truly help all sentient beings in the future be free from suffering, the causes of suffering, and achieve bliss and all of the causes of bliss forever. We're so fortunate to be here tonight, to hear the pure words of Buddha Shakyamuni, elucidated by Lama Tsongkhapa. So fortunate that we know about Lord Atisha's text, The Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment, where we find that special quote that Khenser Geshe Wandak shared with us so many times. Understand there are persons of 3 capacities, small, medium, and great. I shall write clearly to identify their individual characteristics. We're so fortunate. Imagine that Buddha Shakyamuni now becomes completely animated, is so happy that we're here tonight, fulfilling his wishes, Buddha Shakyamuni came into our world with so much love and compassion to show us exactly how to be free from suffering and how to achieve bliss. We're engaging in exactly the causes for freedom from suffering and bliss. And imagine how happy that would make Buddha Shakyamuni, because the only reason he came to this world was to show us this incredible truth. Now imagine all the holy gurus and Buddhas and Bodhisattvas explode out of Buddha Shakyamuni. Buddha Shakyamuni has been containing the entire merit field this whole time. Imagine how Buddha Shakyamuni is still there. Imagine all the holy gurus, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, such as Khensur Geshe Wandak. So happy we're going on with these teachings, looking at the Lam Rim over and over and over again, looking at how we can combine method and wisdom to achieve the state of Buddhahood, which is a freedom from the afflictive obstructions and the obstructions to omniscience forever. Khensur Geshe Wandak would be so happy that we're engaging in these practices, imagining His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who presents us with these Nalanda Pandit stories and all of their texts and all of their commentaries so clearly again and again and again, so that we can truly understand their meanings. Imagine all of these beings like Geshe Lobsang Gompo, and imagining Khensur Lobsang Gyatso, imagining Demalocha Rinpoche, and Geshe Dorje Damdu, and Umzala Geshe Aga, and Geshe Mala Tenzin Ladrin, imagining all these holy beings like Jeffrey Hopkins, imagining Thupten Chodron, and Ani, Geshe Mala, Tenzin Ladrin, all these beings in the space in front of you that have been so kind to us to help us understand the Dharma, especially these days. Geshe Dorje Damdo and Umzala Geshe Aga are being so kind to help us to understand this more and more and more, to take Rinpoche's teachings and put ornaments on them so that we can transform our minds into the state of mind that Rinpoche had. Imagine these holy beings. Imagine the beings of the extensive deeds lineage passed down from Buddha Shakyamuni to Maitreya and Asanga and Dharmakirti and Dignaga and Vimuktasena and Haribhadra and Shakyaprabha and Gunaprabha and Salimpa and Lama Atisha. All these holy beings were so connected to the beings of the profound view lineage passed down from Buddha Shakyamuni to Manjushri and Nagarjuna and Buddha Palita and Aryadeva and Chandrakirti and Shanti Deva and Chandrashita and Baba Vega and Kamala Shila. All of these beings that we've heard about. If we've read the great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment, we've certainly heard about all of these beings. All of the beings of the lineage of blessings passed down from Vajradhara and Saraha and Matripa and Tilopa and Naropa and Tilopa and Naropa, and Lotsawa Marpa and Milarepa and Gampopa. We're so fortunate and blessed to be able to understand the pure nature of the mind, the nature of the clear light mind, the emptiness of inherent existence of the mind, because of these teachings that Milarepa and all these great beings are able to share with us and bring into our worlds. Rejoice in the fact that we're connected to these beings. Imagining Atisha passing the lineage of all of the Lamrim down to Dron Tompa, that holy lay being that held that lineage so purely, the lineages of the three old Kadampas, imagining all the holy beings of the Nyingma, such as Padmasambhava, Sakya Pandita, Kaju, the Karmapas, the Galupa lineage, imagining Lama Tsongkhapa and Kirtup J and Jelsop J, and Panchen Sonandrapa and Basu Chuji Jetson and Jayan Shepa and Janjan Rupi Dorje, Gonchu Jimmy Wampo, the seventh Dalai Lama, all these holy beings. We hear these names again and again and again. It leaves imprints in our minds so that we connect with them in this life and in future lives. These beings' texts are the only texts that will help us to understand exactly what we need to know to become Buddhas. And we're so fortunate to know their names and to be connected to these texts and to have heard these texts, because they are the true medicine that we need to take. Now, imagine the beings of the highest Yoga Tantra, Action Tantra, and Performance Tantra lineages. All those classes of Tantra we're so fortunate to be connected to. It's such a rare case in any rebirth to have the Vajrayana teachings in your life. Only a few Buddhas will teach it in many, many eons. And we're in a time where the Vajrayana teachings are here because Buddha Shakyamuni was so kind to elucidate these teachings because he felt that it would be helpful during this age. Imagine all of the 35 Buddhas with the powerful basis of purification that we can relate to and purify our misdeeds, By applying the 4 opponent powers, we can use these 35 Buddhas as a power of antidote and even get rid of among the 5 heinous crimes, Buddha said. We're so fortunate to be able to know how to get rid of eons of non-virtue because of the kindness of our lamas, imagining all the protector deities that have sworn and made oaths to the Buddhas that we will protect your teachings, the small scope protectors, Vaishravana, the medium scope protectors, Dharmapala, Kalarupa, the great scope protector, Mahakala and Padalamo, and all of the Dharmapalas, imagining all of these great beings in the space in front of you. Now, imagine that you become like these great beings for a moment. Recognize that you want to become free from suffering and the causes of suffering. You want happiness and the causes of happiness. Likewise, all sentient beings want the same exact thing. So the medicine for you is the same medicine for all sentient beings. This is a universal medicine. The teachings for beings of 3 capacities show where any individual can start, a starting point for any individual in the universe, and the ending point of Buddhahood. So we know that every single sentient being needs this medicine of the Dharma in order to achieve what we want to achieve. And we all universally want happiness and want to be free from suffering. And we are all equally important. We could never say if there were 1,000 people in front of us that we are more important on this earth than those 1,000 people. All sentient beings are equally important. All sentient beings have Buddha nature. Everyone will become the most reliable guide in the universe. You may become the most reliable guide in the universe before I do, and you will become a reliable guide for me. So all sentient beings are equally important, and I depend upon all sentient beings in order to achieve all the types of happiness, mundane and super mundane. So we recognize that it's independence upon sentient beings' happiness and us bringing them to happiness that we actually feel happiness. And the only way that all sentient beings can feel true happiness and have a complete freedom from suffering is if they hear these teachings. So we now imagine that we're the bodhisattvas that we will become, and we can actually reach these sentient beings. Imagine we can actually connect with all of these sentient beings. And what a bodhisattva would do is teach sentient beings. A bodhisattva would lead sentient beings to the Dharma. So imagine that for a moment, we actually have that pure state of mind that a bodhisattva has, that day and night he or she wants to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings and works for the needs of sentient beings and puts others' needs before their own because he or she knows that that's the ultimate way to bliss. Imagine we're like that being for a moment and we begin to bring all the beings in the universe here to join us in hearing this teaching. Imagine we bring all the hell-hungry ghost animal, human beings, demigods, and gods here to join us. And we lead them in this practice, lead them in these recitations that we're going to do. We imagine that we somehow have created the conditions, created some kind of magic that allows all of the lower realm beings to have all their pains and miseries and ignorances and so forth just stop for a moment so they can hear these teachings. And all the beings of the higher realms that think they're doing so well can recognize just for a moment that there is a need to hear something that's so important. And maybe they can too be convinced that their state of the condition of happiness, even if it's in the highest state of happiness in cyclic existence, is actually suffering and could be better. Let's bring all sentient beings here to become the best that each and every one of them can become. And the best that we all can become is this universal thing that we all will become, which is Buddha. We all will wake up from the sleep of ignorance. We all will get rid of the afflictive obstructions and the obstructions to omniscience by engaging in this pathway. It's just a matter of starting and putting in the effort and having the consistency. So now imagine that all the beings are assembled here and that all the gurus, Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas are so pleased that all sentient beings are here doing exactly what they want them to do. All of the holy beings want. Suma's acting very outrageous this evening. She has a cone on again because she's got a bad eye problem that we don't know what's going to happen with it. So the noise you've been hearing is Suma messing with her cone because she wants to get to her eye. So we're hoping that it isn't going to become a major situation, but please keep Suma in your prayers. But she's here, so we're doing all we can for Suma right now. And she's hearing the Dharma, and hopefully she has some imprints like Vasubandhu's pigeon, and then will become a greater scholar than the little tiny bit of scholarness that I have in her future life. And that's what happened to Vasubandhu's pigeon. Became a greater scholar than Vasubandhu in the future, related to some of the baskets that he had stuck around to listen to when he wasn't out pigeoning. That's another story for another time. But he missed some of the stuff when he was out pigeoning. But he became a greater scholar in the stuff than Vasubandhu when he wasn't out pigeoning. So we can imagine, in whatever way we can help sentient beings, we bring them all here. And we imagine that their, overload of happiness that's keeping them from hearing the Dharma is quelled just enough so they can hear the Dharma, and the overload of pain and misery is quelled just enough so they can hear the Dharma. So everyone's here, even the arhats, the here and solitary realizers who are on abiding nirvana. Imagine they're yanked out and they hear the Mahayana and hear exactly what they need to do to get rid of their obstructions to omniscience, because they still have them. They still have the subtle self-cherishing attitude sticking around because of the self-centered path that they traversed, which was a path to freedom for themselves alone. So the imprints of that, this self-cherishing attitude at its subtle level, is still there. So imagine they're here too, to hear how to get rid of the self-cherishing attitude. So with that in mind, with all the Gurus, Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas full of bliss and happy that we're doing what they'd want us to do, and all sentient beings here, we have every being that there could possibly be in the universe with us tonight. Let's recite the Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge. Okay. Now imagine you're leading all sentient beings again in this prayer. So imagine while you're reciting this prayer that there's just a chorus going on, and just imagining it in this way, and that all the Gurus and Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are almost just swaying and listening and so happy and so proud that this is going on. Imagine it, make it personal, make this an experience, make this something that you connect to, not something dry and dull and boring. You see me when I'm doing this with the music offerings, or this with the music offerings, or these different things, because these are all, as a musician, things that I relate to, that I can connect to as an actual offering that can be personalized. And you see actually the great Geshes. I saw Dzong Rinpoche teaching the mudras of all the different instruments, guitars and drums, and all these various instruments and flutes. He did the flute, right? Flute. If you play it this way or this way, anyway, he did the flute, and so forth. So personalize these things. It's so important, and make it your own. You hear the chorus of sentient beings chanting the Heart Sutra. You see the Gurus, Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas so pleased. You see the extensive deeds and profound view lineage. Everyone's so pleased that the truth of the five paths and the truth of the lack of inherent existence of all phenomena is being expounded. Imagine how that would make a Sangha feel, how that would make Nagarjuna feel. If we're talking about the five paths, how would that make Maitreya feel? How would that make Manjushri feel? We think about think about how it made Rinpoche feel. You saw a Bodhisattva. How did it make Rinpoche feel when he saw us doing the teaching stuff and doing what really mattered and asking questions about the Dharma and showing up when he'd see the room and the attendees start to come in, and he'd be so happy. He'd be so happy. So imagine things like this.
Screen share, please.
I was supposed to do that before it started. I said, I
Thank
definitely will this time, 100%. I said, before we even get on, I'm going to screen share it. All right. The sutra. So for those who are on Zoom, you can see the screen share. For those of you who aren't on Zoom, you could always come on Zoom. Or if you go to the Chen Rezig Center prayer book, you can find a lot of the prayers that we do. I was part of the compiling originally of this prayer book. I believe Lobsang Samten gave us this translation of the Heart Sutra in 1996 or 7, even before we met Rinpoche. So it's wonderful. So you can find all of this on the Chen Rezik Center's website. There's PDFs where you can download these files. So feel free, chenrezikcenter.com. Feel free to download any of this information, or the prayer book, or any of the teachings that were given. Please watch them, where, you know, Rinpoche gave incredible teachings. I encourage everyone watching to please download them, check them out. They're on YouTube. They're on the Chen Rezik Center website. And there's a wealth of information that I benefited so immensely from. And these teachings are only able to be given because of. Okay. Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge. Thus have I heard, once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajagriha at Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a great gathering of the Sangha monks and a great gathering of the Sangha Bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the samadhi that expresses the Dharma called profound illumination. And at the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, while practicing the profound Prajaparamita, saw in this way. He saw the 5 skandhas to be empty of nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son or daughter of noble family train who wishes to practice the profound Prajaparamita? Addressed in this way, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said to Venerable Shariputra, O Shariputra, a son or daughter of noble family who wishes to practice the profound Prajaparamita should see in this way. Seeing the 5 skandhas to be empty of nature. Form is emptiness. Emptiness also is form. Emptiness is no other than form. Form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness are emptiness. Thus, Shariputra, all dharmas are emptiness. There are no characteristics. There is no birth and no cessation. There is no impurity, no purity. There is no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no perception, no formation, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no dharmas, no I dhatu up to no mind dhatu, no dhatu of dharmas, no mind consciousness dhatu, no ignorance, no end of ignorance up to no old age and death, no end of old age and death, no suffering, no origin of suffering, no cessation of suffering, no path, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since the Bodhisattvas have no attainment, they abide by means of Prajaparamita. Since there is no obscuration of mind, there is no fear. They transcend falsity and attain complete nirvana. All the Buddhas of the 3 times by means of Prajaparamita fully awaken to unsurpassable, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the great mantra Prajaparamita, the mantra of great insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequal mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering, should be known as truth, since there is no deception. The Prajaparamita mantra is said in this way. So the reason that we know the meaning of the Prajaparamita mantra is because of the kindness of the extensive deeds lineage, in terms of its, the meaning of the 5 paths that's implicitly contained within it, where we find the path of accumulation, path of preparation, path of seeing, path of meditation, and path of no more learning, presented in the Gate 1, Gate 2, Paragate 3, Parasamgate 4, and Bodhisoha 5, referring to the 5 great Mahayana paths. But we understand these 5 paths because of the extensive deeds lineage, because of the Abhisamalamkara, because of the 70 topics, because of Haribhadra and Vimuktasena and Asanga and so forth. They really elucidated the grounds and paths. So we can understand this mantra's meaning because of the extensive deeds lineage, and we can understand the emptiness of true existence, the emptiness of objective existence, intrinsic existence of all of those 5 paths of action, agent, and object, because of the kindness of the profound view lineage passed down again from Manjushri to Nagarjuna, because of Nagarjuna and Chandrakirti's and Aryadevas and Buddhapalita's and Shantideva's kindness, we can truly understand the Madhyamika Prasangika view that was definitively taught at the second turning of the wheel of Dharma here. So when I say we're so connected to these beings, and the nature of our mind is empty of inherent existence, the lineage of blessings, when I say we're so connected to these beings, we really are. In the way that we interpret, the way that we can understand this sutra, and the fact that we can understand this sutra is because of these beings that taught us grounds and paths, and these beings who taught us the lack of inherent existence of action, agent, and object, the lack of inherent existence of all phenomena. Tiyata om gate gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhisoha. So it's like Teyata om gate, path of accumulation, gate, path of preparation, paragate, path of seeing, parasamgate, path of meditation, bodhisoha, path of no more learning. So the learner paths are the path of accumulation, preparation, seeing, and meditation, and the non-learner path is the path of no more learning. Thus, Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound Prajnaparamita. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family, thus it is, O son of noble family, thus it is. One should practice the profound Prajnaparamita just as you have taught, and all the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Venerable Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, that whole assembly in the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. Ngala jube ne jo damba ne ngushe du ju ngai du do jen du baba la ma hi bu shin zi ni song gandro so la sha zelo agasamara je agasamara je Agasamaraja Sandara Samaraya Deadon Gate Paragate Parasangate Buddhizo Baba Gojisoji Kai Dividoji Lobodoji Mevodoji Shiva Doji Dragi Baji Medubi Shutanji Shedding Gori So Ha Gerin Donja Dejo Wadan Midun Nobe Janda Underwadan Dondo Junjin Bonzon Zonjoji Daji Dejan Den Da De Lejo. Make a mandala offering as a request for teaching. Imagining all sentient beings making this mandala offering with you. Perfect universe. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun, and the moon. I imagine this is a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. Holy Lamas high, wrap the sky of your Dharma bodies in massive clouds of knowledge and love, and let them pour upon the earth of your disciples as we are ready, a shower of rain, the teachings deep and wide. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. Sanje Jadan Zaje Janan La Janjo Badu Dani Jazuji Dagi Juji Jipe Sonanje Drola Benje Sanje Druba Sho Sanje Jadan Zaje Janan La Janjo Badu Dani Jazuji Dagi Juji Jipe Sonanje Drola Benje Sanje Druba Sho Sanje Jadan Zoji Janan La Janjo Badu Dani Jazuji Dagi Juji Jibe Sonanji Drola Benji Sanje Drubajo. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the excellent Dharma to dispel all perverted views. To you, the Buddha Gautama, I pay homage. If you are attached to this life, you are not a spiritual practitioner. If you are attached to samsara, you have no renunciation. If you are attached to your own self-interest, you have no bodhicitta. If there is grasping, you do not have the view. May this teaching be heard and understood in the language of all sentient beings. Okay, so we'll get started. One sec, I just have to turn something. Okay. All right, so we've been looking at Lama Tsongkhapa's foundation of all good qualities, a source of all my good, for quite some time now. And it's going to take quite some time more because we're extracting the Lamrim Chemo from it. And we're really trying to look at it in a way, not only, to intellectually be able to say what categories are found in each of these stanzas, but to be able to change our minds and our lives with these stanzas. With the intelligence, to use that wisdom to convert our minds from a deluded mind into a pure mind, not to convert our minds from a mind that's not so full of intelligence into an intelligent mind full of pride. That's not the point. The point is to turn our mind into an intelligent mind, that intelligence can make us start to apprehend our reality in a more realistic way, so that we actually use these teachings every moment of our lives. And we think about applying these teachings in all circumstances. And we can see how applicable the teaching related to the foundation of all of our excellent qualities is the teacher. We can see how that relates to our every circumstance, because we know that the teacher taught us certain things to engage in and certain things to abstain from. So the moment that we start to have a negative reaction, if we know that the foundation of all our good qualities is our teacher, then we know that the reason that that foundation is true is because what the teacher teaches us is the only thing that can enable us to get all of the excellent qualities that he or she has, to get all of the excellent qualities that the Buddha has. So when we have that moment of decision on how we're going to behave, if we bring this to mind, it brings the teachings to mind, because the guru is the Buddha, the guru is the Dharma, likewise the guru is the Sangha. The guru is the source of everything wholesome. I go for refuge to the guru. So when we start to know how to taste these teachings, it'll really matter to us in those times where we would normally be crazed and out of control. It'll really have an impact on our minds. It really will. I promise. Source of all my good is my kind Lama, my Lord. Bless me first to see that taking myself to him in the proper way is the very root of the path, and grant me then to serve and follow him with all my strength and reverence. Pabunka's first category of the 4, find a Lama, how to serve him or her properly, thought and action, etc. So this is the first category. Second category, once you've found a Lama, what to do. Most of the stanzas going forward are going to deal with this category. Once you found a teacher, what to do. Next category, take an essence of this life. And then the next categories will be the teachings shared in common with beings of small and medium capacity, then the teachings for beings of great capacity. I will only highlight the names of each of those stanzas as far as categorically. I won't give any more commentary on them because we've gone over them enough, and I have some information I'd like to share with you tonight. Now, what to do once you find a Lama. Pabunka says this category is how to take the essence of this life. Bless me first to realize that the excellent life of leisure I found just this once is ever so hard to find and ever so valuable. Grant me then to wish and never stop to wish that I can take its essence night and day. Now, how to abandon attachment for this life, how to become a spiritual practitioner. Now, the teachings shared in common with beings of small capacity begin. My body and the life in it are fleeting as the bubbles in the sea froth of a wave. Bless me first thus to recall the death that will destroy me soon, and help me find sure knowledge that after I have died, the things I've done, the white or black, and what those deeds will bring to me, follow always close behind, as certain as my shadow. Grant me then ever to be careful to stop the slightest wrongs of the many wrongs we do, and try to carry out instead each and every good of the many that we may. The next stanza, we get to the section where we learn how to get rid of attachment to samsara. If you're attached to samsara, you have no renunciation. We learn how to get renunciation in the teachings shared in common with beings of medium capacity that start here. Bless me to perceive all that's wrong with the seemingly good things of this life. I can never get enough of them. They cannot be trusted. They are the door to every pain I have. Grant me then to strive instead for the happiness of freedom. Grant that these pure thoughts may lead me to be watchful and to recall what I should be doing. Grant me to give the greatest care to make the vows of morality the essence of my practice. They are the root of Buddhist teaching. So here we find implicitly in it, we find all the teachings on renunciation, the 12 links of dependent origination, the 4 noble truths, and so forth. And we find the teachings on the nature of reality in the medium scope of emptiness, because even a hero solitary realizer needs the Madhyamika Prasangika view of emptiness to achieve his or her abiding nirvana. Next, we get to that section that says if you're attached to your own self-interest, you have no bodhicitta. This then is talking about the teachings shared in common. The teachings for beings of great capacity, the Mahayana teachings that begin with that beautiful mind of bodhicitta, the mind that wishes for enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings, that is the only entrance to the Mahayana. So this stanza says, I have slipped and fallen into the sea of this suffering life. Bless me to see that every living being, everyone my own mother, has fallen into. Grant me then to practice the wish for enlightenment, to take on myself the task of freeing them all. Bless me to see clearly that the wish itself is not enough, for I am not well trained in the 3 moralities. I cannot become a Buddha. Grant me then a fierce resolve to master the Bodhisattva vows. So this is the section on the great scope. And then the common view of emptiness and calm abiding and special insight will be presented. And though the view, the necessity of having shamatha and vipassana is something that we find indispensable in the medium or great scope. So we can say that after the great scope, we find a commonality in terms of points that are made, and then it gets into Tantrayana. So here it says, if I'm not well trained in the three moralities, I cannot become a Buddha. So we see that the three moralities in Pabunka's commentary, and in many I found in other commentaries too, one of which I'll share with you tonight. It says that the three moralities refer to the morality, one, of abandoning non-virtue, number two, the morality of collecting goodness, and number three, the morality of working for the sake of sentient beings. And in Geshe Sunam Rinpoche's commentary, Geshe Sunam Rinpoche was a great master teacher at the Library of Tibetan Works and Archives, a student of Trijung Rinpoche, born in the 30s, incredible scholar. And his translator, Ruth Sonam, did an incredible amount of work. He has a commentary on the Bodhisattva vow, specifically a commentary on Chandra Groman's 20 verses that I'm going to share with you this week and probably going into next week, because I think it'll be really beneficial to kind of see where the source material for those 18 root and 46 secondary vows that I just read vow by vow to you comes from. So we see Chandra Groman's 20 stanzas on bodhicitta, and then we also 20, it's just called Chandra Groman's 20 verses, but 20 verses on the bodhisattva vow. And then there's a supplement of in the text to complete kind of all of the vows to get a full understanding of Shantideva's compendium of trainings. So what Geshe Sonam Rinpoche says is the bodhisattva, when he or she first takes the vow, if we're looking at it in terms of these three moralities, it's when they first take the vow, they've got to practice the ethics of abandoning non-virtue more. Then he or she needs to collect goodness, collect method and wisdom to become more and more skillful. And Atisha's Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment, it says you have to get these clairvoyances to really be helpful. Without higher perception, you really can't achieve all of the aims. So you're working on getting these higher perceptions. You're working on accumulating merit and wisdom so that you're clairvoyant and so that you're wise enough as a bodhisattva to work for the needs of sentient beings in a complete way. Not that you as a bodhisattva don't work at abandoning non-virtue, collecting goodness, and working for the needs of sentient beings at all times anyway, but there's more of an emphasis in the beginning stages on the abandoning the non-virtue, then an emphasis on collecting goodness, and then an emphasis on working for sentient beings in terms of this commentary. So I wanted to share that with you. But we know when we look at this first category, the ethics of abandoning non-virtue, there are the common things that we should abandon that we find common to all people who are Buddhists. If you're a student of the Buddha, we have all of these common kinds of behaviors, ethical disciplines. We have the refuge vows. We have the ethics, which engages in the 10 virtuous activities and so forth. So Rinpoche always wanted to emphasize these universal ethics the Buddha taught, and then specific ethics that were taught for individuals who could take on specific sets of vows. So these universal ethics, I think you could say, we find in the teaching shared in common with beings of small capacity. I was thinking about this today. I didn't read this today, but I was just thinking about this, that we find the ethics that abandon the 10 non-virtuous activities. We find, these kinds of behavior modifications presented in the teachings shared in common with beings of small capacity. And then when we get to the Pradamoksha vows, which are the beginning of the uncommon sets. So we say there's three kinds of vows: individual liberation vows, bodhisattva vows, and tantric vows. When we get to the uncommon ethical behaviors or the uncommon moralities, where it's actual vows that an individual would take, it seems to me like we get to the medium scope, because the Pradamoksha vows, the individual liberation vows, are renunciate vows. They're vows for someone who wants to definitely emerge from cyclic existence. I'm going to engage in whatever, ethical whatever ethical behavior I need to, whatever restraint I need to engage into in order to achieve liberation. I'm doing so because I desire to definitely emerge from cyclic existence. And that's why they're called individual liberation vows. They're vows you take as an individual to become liberated. So you see these presented in the medium scope. And then the bodhisattva vows, we don't get until the great scope. So it's very interesting when we look at the, uncommon, the common moralities, we find them in the small scope. The uncommon moralities seem to begin in the medium scope. And then we only find the bodhisattva and tantric moralities in the great scope. So there's another way we can scope out some of this stuff. And anytime I can put something into a category that makes sense, I think it enriches our ability to understand things to some degree. So we have these 18 root and 46 secondary vows that we talked about to some degree. And at the foundation of these, see, we have foundations of foundations. So you'll see that the foundation of the Bodhisattva vow is really the Pratamoksha vow. Lord Atisha says in The Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment that the best candidate, the most ideal practitioner to receive a Bodhisattva vow is a being who holds among the 7 kinds of individual liberation vows, ideally fully ordained. So we see that the individual liberation vow serves as a foundation for the Bodhisattva vow, and the refraining from the 10 non-virtues and engaging in the refuge vows serves as the foundation for the Bodhisattva vow, because we know that one of the mental conditions necessary for even getting bodhicitta is recognizing the Buddha's excellence, the Buddha becoming this reliable guide. So you would have refuge and have refuge vows that are necessary to be there as the foundation pillars for the Pratamoksha vows, which are the foundation or the foundations for the Bodhisattva vows, to stand on top of. And the Bodhisattva vows are the foundations for the Tantric vows to stand on. So these are all foundations for one another in terms of morality. And the morality becomes more and more advanced as you could actually keep it, because your realizations are more advanced. So this is why the Bodhisattva vows are so hard to keep, and the Tantric vows are really, really hard to keep, because there's an assumption that you're a Bodhisattva and that you have this ability and this calm mind and so forth to be able to really engage in these. So we see these are all foundations for one another. So it's 808. So I think it's only 20 verses with the supplement. So I think for auspicious reasons, we'll just read this text. Whenever His Holiness teaches Bodhisattva vows, he reads this root text. So we just went over the Bodhisattva vows. So it's nice to hear them all in detail one by one, and then you can see where this comes from. And it talks about going offerings and how to receive the vow and so forth. I'm not going to give any commentary on it. So the text of the 20 verses in English and Tibetan, and there's a supplement of Shantideva's compendium of training that's in here. Yes. And yeah, so let's go from here. Homage to the youthful Manjushri. Okay, before I start the story, before I start the text, I have to tell one story. Who's Chandragomin? We heard this from Rinpoche so many times. I was thinking about this before class. Remember Rinpoche used to talk about Chandragomin came to Nalanda Monastery, and he was a layperson, and he was a follower of Asangha's view, the extensive deeds lineage view, follower of the mind-only school view. And Chandrakirti was outside the gates of Nalanda Monastery debating and saw Chandragomin coming, and recognizing that he was a layperson, knew that there were monastics at Nalanda, so they couldn't pay homage to him because a monastic isn't supposed to make a prostration to a layperson. It's like a pecking order thing. So the story goes that Chandrakirti knew how great Chandragomin was. He was a layperson, and Chandragomin had a relationship with Chenrezig, Avalokiteshvara. So Chandrakirti had this great idea that they would get a statue of Manjushri, and then Chandragomin, they'd have 3 chariots. One chariot in the middle would be Manjushri statue, and one chariot Chandragomin would stay in, and one chariot Chandrakirti would ride. And Chandragomin would fan the Manjushri statue. So all of the, so it would be okay, because he would be doing the job of the fanning of the Manjushri statue. And supposedly Manjushri the statue actually turns his head because of this. Anyway, that's another story. So this is one story. So they get into the gates of Nalanda, and then Chandrakirti and Chandragoman begin a debate that goes on for, I think, maybe 9 years, a lot of years, a lot of years. And it's a funny thing that keeps happening because Chandragoman holds the mind-only school view. Chandrakirti is one of the greatest Madhyamika Prasangika philosophers known in the world at the time. And for some reason, he's debating Chandragoman, and Chandragoman would just stop and not answer things, but then come back the next day and have all the answers to Chandrakirti's questions. And this would go on and on and on, and Chandrakirti could never figure it out. He knew Chandragoman's view wasn't the final view. And this debate would go on and on and on for years. And then he would come back with the answer, and then Chandrakirti would come up with something, and then somehow Chandragoman would conveniently end the debate and say, let's carry on tomorrow, and then come back and have all the answers and be able to do this. So Chandrakirti starts to get suspicious, wants to know what's going on. So he sneaks, he says, what is going on at night? During the day, this guy's silent. He comes back the next day and he knows everything. What's happening at night? What book is he reading to be able to just combat me in this way in a dialectical style? It was driving him crazy. So he sneaks over to Chandragoman's room and he looks in the door and he sees Chandragoman in front of Chenrezig. And Chenrezig, Avalokiteshvara, embodiment, is saying, if Chandrakirti says this, then you say this. And then when Chandrakirti says this, you say that. So then Chandrakirti says, wow, what's going on here? Chenrezig, whoa, you're supposed to be non-biased, what's going on, And then Chenrezig looks at Chandrakirti and says, you use as your wisdom deity Manjushri. You have that connection with Manjushri. Chandragoman connected with me as a wisdom deity. Therefore, I can answer his questions. It's not about bias. It's about connected. It's about karma. And so this debate went on and on for years. So Chandragoman was known as a great scholar. He wrote books on alphabet and also these 20 verses, just really an incredible scholar, and had this connection with Avalokiteshvara from a very, very young age. And is actually, like, if you want to get into the whole story, was born with all of these auspicious things. He was debating a non-Buddhist and defeated him in a previous life. And the non-Buddhist said, even though you defeated me, you didn't defeat me because I still don't believe there's past and future lives. So when Chandragoman's previous life was about to die, he put a mark on his head and a pearl in his mouth, and the baby was born. Chandragoman's next life, he was born as Chandragoman, and he had a pearl in his mouth and a mark on his head to prove to the non-Buddhist philosophers reincarnation was true. So it's another little tidbit about Chandragoman. Pretty cool stories, but let me just read this text straight through. And we'll probably, when we get in the Independence text, be able to read a little bit more about it. But I remembered those stories Rinpoche telling about Chandragoman being escorted snuck in to Nalanda and prostrated to by way of pretending he was spanning a statue because he was a lay person. And then the story of him consulting Chenrezig for all of his debate questions and answers. And it was literally, when you read the story, it says, if Chandrakirti says this to you, make sure you say this. Okay. Homage to the youthful Manjushri. Interesting, he pays homage to Manjushri. Funny, with the story that I just told, but it's okay. Homage to the youthful Manjushri. Pay homage with reverence and offer what you can to Buddhas and their children. This is the code of the Bodhisattvas existing everywhere throughout time. Take that treasury of all merit with an excellent intention from a spiritual teacher with ability who observes the vow and is learned in it. Then, because it is definite, Buddhas and their children with their virtues hearts will always consider you their beloved child. For others and also for yourself, do what is useful, even if painful, and what is useful and what is both useful and pleasurable, not what gives pleasure, but is of no use. Coming from strong, disturbing emotions, they are what destroy the vow. All four of their transgressions are considered to be like defeats. So we read about the four things that have to be present last week to have a full transgression of the Bodhisattva vow. Sorry. With attachment to reward, respected service, praising oneself or disparaging others, out of miserliness, not giving teaching or wealth to the suffering and unprotected, not heeding the confession of others, striking them in anger. These are things you shouldn't do. Rejecting the great vehicle, giving a counterfeit of the excellent teaching, giving fake teachings. The vow should be taken again, confess moderate contamination to 3, and to 1 the rest with and without disturbing emotions are similarly confessed in one's own mind. Now there's the supplemented part from Shantideva's Compendium of Training that's thrown in at verse number 8. There's a supplement. Robbing what belongs to the 3 jewels is a downfall likened to a defeat. Rejecting the excellent teachings is named as the second by the subduer. The third is to seize the robes, strike or put in prison, demote from ordination, or deprive of life, even a monk with faulty discipline, performing the 5 heinous actions, holding wrong views, destroying villages, and so forth, were said to be basic downfalls by the subduer. Speaking about emptiness to a living being whose mind has not been prepared, making those engaged in attaining Buddhahood and turning away from complete enlightenment after they have given up individual liberation involving them in the great vehicle, saying and convincing them that the learner's vehicle cannot eliminate attachment and so forth, also making them enter the great vehicle, speaking about one's own good qualities and disparaging others, for respect, reward, and for the sake of verses, saying what is false, such as I can tolerate the profound, having practitioners of virtue find, and accepting what was given and donated to the 3 jewels, making them give up calm abiding, and giving to those who perform recitation the resources of practitioners of concentration. These are the basic downfalls, which are causes for hell realms of living beings. They should be confessed in a dream, kneeling before exalted essence of space. Not offering the 3 to the 3 jewels, following thoughts of desire, not respecting one's seniors, giving no answers to questions, not accepting invitations, not taking such things as gold, not giving to those who seek teaching, disdaining the immoral, not training for the sake of others' faith, doing too little for the good of living beings. With compassion, there is no non-virtue, readily accepting a wrong livelihood, getting very excited through distraction, thinking to travel only in cyclic existence, failing to prevent defamation, not correcting even those with disturbing emotions, abuse in return for abuse, and so forth, ignoring those who are angry, disregarding another's excuses, following thoughts of anger, gathering followers out of desire for reward and respect, not getting rid of laziness and so forth, indulging in gossip with passion, not seeking the object of meditative stabilization, not eliminating the hindrances to concentration, appreciating the taste of concentration, giving up the hearer vehicle, effort in that despite having one's own method, without effort except for non-Buddhist treatises, making effort and also liking them more, rejecting the great vehicle, praising oneself or disparaging others, deprecating them and relying upon the letter, not being a friend in need, refusing to serve the sick, not removing suffering, not teaching the careless what is proper, not repaying a good deed, not assuaging others' grief, not giving to those who want wealth, not working for the welfare of followers, not conforming to others' ideas, not speaking in praise of good qualities, not punishing to fit the circumstances, not using miraculous feats to threaten and so forth. There is no fault if one has compassion, is loving, and has a virtuous mind. So you see, even Chandra Groman believes in tough love. Even a bodhisattva believes in tough love. If it comes from a loving place, comes from a compassionate place. So we have to understand, Geshe Dorje Damdu always says, be kind to yourself and be wisely kind to yourself. So we have to look at each and every one of these situations with skillful means and look at them in terms of how would I best help this sentient being? And that isn't always in a way that is so soft and so gentle, but we need to make sure that our motivation is proper. And if we aren't bodhisattvas, if we aren't realized beings who can tell the difference, to just kind of more so remain like a piece of wood, as Shanti Davis says, and not really return any kind of scolding with scolding if someone maybe you think needs it. If you're not sure, remain like a piece of wood. So with that, I think we'll end. I just wanted to, for auspicious reasons, read Chandragoman's text. And next week, I want to get into an incredible part about those three moralities in this text by Geshe Sonam Rinchen, about the amassing virtue and so forth. So I do want to go over those next week, because I think that they're going to be really helpful for us to gaining even more of an understanding of what we're going to need to do. So yeah, hold on one second. I just wanted to see. All right, so we can get into this next time. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we'll get into this next time. Perfect. If you're attached to this life, you are not a spiritual practitioner. If you are attached to samsara, you have no renunciation. If you are attached to your own self-interest, you have no bodhicitta. If there is grasping, you do not have the view. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the immaculate Dharma to dispel all perverted views. To you, the Buddha, Gautama, I pay homage. We'll do prayer for the flourishing of Lama Tsongkhapa's teachings. Oh, okay. Instead of that, I don't have it, so that's okay. We'll do the Mitsema. We'll do Lama Tsongkhapa's mantra after the mandala offering. And we do pray for the flourishing of Lama Tsongkhapa's teachings right in the mandala offering. But, I want to make sure that we're always praying for this flourishing of these pure teachings that can help sentient beings so much. And the Nejung Oracle also said that the prayer for the flourishing of Lama Tsongkhapa's teachings is so important. So I encourage all of you, if you don't know what it is, to look into it and to recite it on a daily basis if you can, or as much as possible. The rules are only your rules. How quickly would you like to be free from suffering? And how quickly would you like bliss? Rules are your rules, not my rules. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun, and the moon. I imagine this is a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of all teachings and of all sentient beings, and for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang Drapa to shine forever. Mimezewe tujin genrezi, jime jembe wambo jambe an, tibumale junze zanweda, kanchin gebe zojin zongaba, Losang Drape jala soade. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. Any mistakes that I've made, I apologize and confess. I don't know of any off the top of my head, but if I did, I apologize. May they be purified by Vajrasattva's mantra. May your mind be purified by Vajrasattva's mantra. May yours, mine, and all sentient beings, body, speech, and mind be purified by this mantra of Vajrasattva. Imagining Vajrasattva in the space in front of you, inseparable from your root guru, inseparable from Khensur Geshe Wandak, inseparable from His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Imagining that from Vajrasattva, light and nectar is raining down on you and all sentient beings. Imagine that white light, rays, and nectars are raining down on you and all sentient beings and transforming into white ohms and purifying your body. Red light, rays, and nectars are showering down on you and all sentient beings and transforming into red ahs and purifying yours and all sentient beings' speech. And blue light, rays, and nectars are showering down on you and all sentient beings and transforming into blue hums and purifying yours and all sentient beings' mind. So imagine that your body, speech, and mind is purified with this mantra. Om benzo sato samayama nupalaya benzo sato seno bachisha tida me baba sutokaya me baba supokaya me baba anurado me baba sarvasiddhi me pracha sarva kama sucha me kitam shriram kuruhum ha 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 ho bhagavan sarva tathagata benzo mame mukha benzo baba maha samaya sapa ahom ve. May we always be protected by Palden Lamo. Jo Ramo, Jo Ramo, Jo Jo Ramo Dunjo, Kalarajamo, Ramo Ajadaja Dunjo, Rulu Rulunjo, Jo Ramo, Jo Ramo, Jo Jo Ramo Dunjo, Kalarajamo, Ramo Ajadaja Dunjo, Rulu Rulunjo, Jo Ramo, Jo Ramo, Jo Jo Ramo Dunjo, Kalarajamo, Ramo Ajadaja Dunjo, Rulu Rulunjo. Jo Rama Jo Rama Jo Jo Rama Dunjo Kalarajamo Rama Wajadaja Dunjo Rulu Rulunjo Jo Rama Jo Rama Jo Jo Rama Dunjo Kalarajamo Rama Wajadaja Dunjo Rulu Rulunjo Jo Rama Jo Rama Jo Jo Rama Dunjo Kalarajamo Rama Wajadaja Dunjo Rulu Rulunjo Jo Rama Jo Rama Jo Jo Rama Dunjo Kalarajamo Rama Wajadaja Dunjo Rulu Rulunjo. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri and likewise Samantabhadra as well. With whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors who traverse the 3 times, I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. Prayer for the long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama in that pure land surrounded by snowy mountains. You are the source of all benefit and happiness. All powerful Avalokiteshvara Tenzin Gyatso, may you stay until samsara's end. And now the supplication to Khensur Geshe Wanda, composed on March 6, 2023, by myself 1 year after Khensur Rinpoche passed. A complex yogi poses as a simple monk. Homage to Khensur Geshe Wandak Rinpoche, our precious spiritual friend who is inseparable from Aryatara. I fully prostrate, covering as many atoms of the earth as possible to your pure body, speech, mind, and enlightened activities. I offer to you drinking water, bathing water, flowers, insects, candles, scented water, fruit, food, and music purified by Om Ah Om. The rarity of having 1 million wish-fulfilling gems is a common occurrence compared to meeting with a holy teacher like you, who placed the complete path to Buddhahood in our childlike hands. Just like Atishu came to Tibet with a lamp to dispel the darkness of ignorance, you, kind abbot, arrived in the West with a lineage purer than a diamond and begged us never to be satisfied with partial instructions. The teachings of the extensive deeds and profound view lineages flowed from your lips like nectar for our ears that elucidated the teachings for beings of 3 capacities. Now the sound has stopped. All composite things are impermanent. You told us that all your teachers passed away and understood the sadness, entreating us to continue our studies. The Buddha does not wash away the negativities of beings, nor does he remove their miseries by his hands. The spiritual realizations are not transferred to them. It is by teaching the truth of suchness that beings are liberated. We are not prepared to take this difficult journey to the highest goodness of Buddhahood without your continued guidance. The sadness in our hearts would be too overwhelming. May you swiftly return to this world and take care of us in all our lives, wherever we may be, never leaving our hearts and crowns. May all sentient beings perfectly realize renunciation, bodhicitta, and the correct view of emptiness, so they know who you really are. Thank you so much, everyone. Remember that we have our YouTube channel at Buddhist Center, where we have, 85 or so videos uploaded. And if you go and you go ahead and you hit the like button if you want. And the longer you listen to a teaching, the more the algorithm thinks it's good and the more they'll present it to people. So I'm not trying to amass anything. I'm just trying to get Rinpoche's teachings to as many people as possible. So if you think about it, check the YouTube channel out, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you'll see all of the teachings there, and they'll eventually all be categorized. So all the source teachings are in one place, all the bodhicitta teachings are in one place. It started, but it needs to be cleaned up a little. So check it out, Buddhist Center on YouTube. It's starting to get a little bit of traction. People are starting to look at it. And also our TikTok page. And then on Facebook, we're Tara Mantra. So we're just trying to get it out to everybody. So if any of the algorithms don't like hearing any of the other algorithms' names, I'm sorry. See you all. Have a wonderful night. And I'll see you on Sunday morning at 10:30. Don't forget, we start at 10:30 now. Take care.